And welcome back to an episode of the Cool Your Jets podcast. We're hosts Ben Blessington and Michael Nania. Hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. Michael and I are recording this a day later, so it comes out Tuesday morning. And we figured we lay out some 2021 Jets debate topics. As listeners of the show may know, Michael and I don't tend to disagree often, both too rational for that to happen. But today we've laid out some topics that the objective is that Michael and I may have a bit of a disagreement, and we can go back and forth, lay out our points. But we'll see how it goes. Michael and I both don't know each other's answers to these, so coincidentally, we could end up agreeing a lot. But we'll see how it goes. Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to disagreeing a little bit. We're usually pretty much on the same page, so looking forward to changing it up.
All right, well, I guess with that, we'll just hop right into it. Michael, who do you think leads the Jets in touchdowns this year? How about we say our answer on the count of 3 at the same time? Okay, ready?
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Elijah Moore. Oh man, not a great way to start out.
No, I'm just kidding. I knew that one from Michael. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
You can let your argument for Elijah Moore. You go ahead, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
All right, so I guess for Elijah Moore, he comes to mind first because I feel like he can score in both phases. I think not that you see receivers who are featured in the run game score a lot of touchdowns, but I feel like he can put in at least one, maybe two on the ground. And then through the air, I feel like he's a favorite to lead the team in targets. And I feel like there's a wide variety of ways he can score. And I think the biggest thing is that the Jets don't have a bell cow running back who's going to hog all the touchdowns, all the rushing touchdowns. So I think that points me to the wide receiver position. So I'm going to go with Moore.
Yeah, I actually agree with you here. But I'll lay out a case for somebody else in a minute. But I think the biggest point, like you mentioned, is the fact that it's going to be a running back by committee approach. I do think the Jets are going to be really run heavy. And if they had a bell cow like a Derrick Henry or somebody like that, I would definitely take the running back. But because of that, the running back carries are going to be too split up. I don't think any Jets running back is a good fantasy target for that reason as well. And then, like you said, I think you can use Elijah Moore in so many different ways. And I'm trying not to buy too much into the minicamp hype, but even if you just look at his tape, especially this past year's tape, I mean, it is insane the numbers that he was putting up and what he was showing on the field itself. So I do feel like he's going to be I do feel like he'll lead the team in touchdowns, but I'll make another argument. I think Corey Davis has a very good shot, and we kind of laid this out in a wide receiver preview last week. Go check that out if you haven't already. But the thing that Corey Davis has over these receivers is that he's a 3-down receiver, where I don't know if any other receiver on this team will be used all 3 downs as much as Corey Davis is, because Davis is going to be out there when you're in 12 personnel and you're looking to run the football, when you're in 3 wide receiver sets. It doesn't really matter. Elijah Moore could be battling. We don't necessarily know how the Jets are going to use Elijah Moore. I think personally, you're going to see a lot of Corey Davis at the X, Elijah Moore at the Z, Crowder in the slot. But Elijah Moore was billed as more of a slot receiver, and the Jets already have a great one in Jamison Crowder. So you could see Elijah Moore fighting for some slot reps with Jamison Crowder, splitting some time there. I also think Denzel Mims and Keelan Cole should make a push to play on the outside. So Corey Davis is really the one wide receiver that I'm pretty confident is going to be on the field every single snap for the Jets as long as he's healthy. And I think just the number of snaps is going to equal more targets. He's a bigger body receiver. You could use him in the red zone. He's a perfect fit in this offense. He's the only receiver on this team that has any sort of experience in this type of offense. So I think he can hit the ground running. I mean, he is a perfect Shanahan, LaFleur, West Coast offense type of receiver. So I think he could make a push to be number one. But I agree with you. It's a very close toss-up. Going to the defensive side of the ball, Michael, who do you think leads the team in sacks?
When I heard this question, the first player that came to mind is Quinnen Williams. I don't know if I kind of dug into it more, if I would stick with him over Carl Lawson, who I don't know if he's your answer or not, but Quinnen comes to mind first. And I guess my rationale for that would be, I feel like having, you put these two guys together who both haven't played with a lot of talent in their career so far. And I feel like doing that benefits the defensive tackle more so than the edge rusher in terms of sack production. It could go both ways for sure, but first instinct on this question, I feel like I see Lawson creating more sacks for Quinnen than the other way around. So I'll go with Quinnen Williams, but I could see either way.
Yeah, I am going to take the opposite approach in this one, and not just because you said Quinnen Williams. I do believe it's going to be Carl Lawson, and I think in general, edge rushers tend to get more sacks than interior defensive linemen. That's not always the case, and I think Quinnen is in the upper echelon of interior defensive linemen, so I certainly think he's going to get his fair share of sacks. But I do believe that he's going to create more opportunities for Carl Lawson, because I think teams are going to double Quinn Williams more than they're going to double Carl Lawson on the edge. And I think that was the one kind of con, I guess, on Lawson, is that he wasn't necessarily a sack master. He only had 5.5, I believe, this past year. I think this is the year he really, really takes off. I'm a huge Carl Lawson fan. Like you said, you saw the amount of pressures he was able to generate last year on a Cincinnati defensive line that had no other talent. Now you add him on this Jets team, and it's arguably the best position group on the team. I think it probably is. The receiver group is a very deep one. The offensive line is an influx of talent. But I think the defensive line group, when you look at the talent across the board, from Quinnen to Sheldon to John Franklin Myers to Vinnie Curry, and even others after that, I think Carl Lawson's going to get some help, and I think he's going to be able to expose the offensive tackles they're playing against. So I'll take Carl Lawson in this one. So we have our first disagreement of the day. Staying with the defensive side of the football, who do you think leads the Jets in interceptions? And you know what, Michael? I'll answer this one first.
Okay, permission granted.
Okay,
go ahead.
Thank you, Lord Michael. It's a tough one to answer. I will grant it that. I think the biggest thing to remember is the Jets are in a zone scheme, and so the cornerback's eyes are generally going to be more on the quarterback than the receiver they're playing. They're going to be able to look in the backfield, and so you'd think with that they'd be able to anticipate some throws and maybe get more interceptions. But the Jets' weakness at corner is kind of preventing me from saying that. I want to go Bryce Hall. That was my first inclination, but I am going to go with a bit of the captain obvious, and I'm going to say Marcus May. I do think that Robert Saleh is going to have a lot of fun with Marcus May. I think he's a type of safety that he hasn't had in his defense yet. I do think Marcus May is a top 10 safety in this league. I think he's a versatile one at that. I think they're going to move him all around the field. He's the longest tenured Jet on this team. He's a veteran leader. I think May is going to be the one that's going to be making some plays on the ball. And look, he's shown it throughout his career. He has been a ball hawk at times. So I think May is going to get it, but I would keep an eye out for Bryce Hall or one of these other corners, because I do think the scheme lends them to be able to get some interceptions. Michael, what do you think?
Well, the first guy that came to mind for me with this question is actually LaMarcus Joyner, and I'm going to roll with it. You look at his career resume, he should not be the pick for this. He only has 4 interceptions in his career, and 3 of them were in 2017. But those 2 years at free safety, he did have 4 picks across those 2 years, including that 2017 season. And 3 picks can be enough to lead a team. It usually is for most teams in the league. So I'm going to go with him. I feel like this is a defense that's going to be a good environment for your free safety to get some interceptions. If I weren't going to go with him, I'd probably go with Bryce Hall, just because I think the scheme favors.
No Marcus May love? Did you not see his butt interception or the one he had against Seattle? He is a bit of a ball hawk, Michael.
I'm not disrespecting Marcus May in any way, but I love Marcus May, and he definitely could get the title here. But I don't know, for some reason he's not the guy who I'm inclined to take here.
Do you think there's any chance that Davis overtakes Joyner's spot by the end of the season?
I think so.
So that completely contradicts your answer.
You asked if there's a chance. I didn't say he would.
Okay, that's fair. Sorry.
If he develops
I'm trying to drum up some disagreement here, Michael.
Okay. Well, that I'm always rational, so I'm just not going to be completely against what you say.
You're just too nuanced.
Explain it. I'm too nuanced to be heated. But I guess I do feel like Davis could take it over by the end of the season if he shows enough. It's probably one of those positions where there is that chance to where if a younger player develops, then the veteran isn't in stone enough to where he can hold that guy off, which is a good thing. I think it's a healthy way to build a roster. But Joyner's a guy I lean towards. I feel like he has good ball hawking skills at the safety position that we haven't really seen fully unleashed because he only got a couple seasons there. And so moving on to the offensive side, and this is a topic that I saw brought up on Twitter recently. DJ from the Daily News actually brought it up. For Zach Wilson, what is a ceiling for him? And specifically, DJ brought up the 4,000-yard mark. It's been very rarely hit by rookie quarterbacks in history. Do you think...
Or Jets quarterbacks.
Yards, yeah, just Jets quarterbacks, period, haven't been able to do it. But also rookie quarterbacks, it's been rare. So... other than Joe, but do you think 4,000 yards is possible for Zach Wilson?
It's definitely possible. I think he's going to be close. I think he's going to have a good rookie season. I think the guy to look at is Jimmy Garoppolo's 2019 season, which he actually didn't end up throwing the ball a lot. Michael and I were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, but he had 476 attempts, which I believe averages out to like 29 attempts per game, which is fairly low. I think you're going to see something like that. I think maybe towards the end of the season, the Jets might let Wilson air it out a little bit more. But Garoppolo had 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He had an average yards per attempt of 8.4, and he threw for 3,978 yards. So he was just shy. And I think that is a kind of a reasonable high ceiling, but not overboard expectation for maybe I shouldn't even say expectation, goal for a Zach Wilson type of season where he throws 13 interceptions. You want to cut that down. 27 touchdowns is very good for a rookie quarterback, and then being just shy of the 4,000 mark. If the question is do I think he'll get it? I'm going to say no. I think he's going to be close. I think he's going to have a very, very good Jets rookie quarterback season, or a very, very good rookie quarterback season, and maybe even the best for a Jets rookie. But 4,000 yards, I'm going to say he comes up just shy on that. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely would not predict that he will do it, but I certainly think it's possible. It's probably like a top 10% sort of outcome. Like it would be very impressive if he were to do that. But I don't think it's likely just because, rookies coming in, you want to be patient with them and not set the expectations too high. But it is possible. Justin Herbert came right in and did it last season with less fanfare than Zach Wilson has right now. And I would say the Jets' weapons are comparable to what the Chargers have or had last year, and their offensive line is definitely better. So
right,
it's certainly possible. But
I just think they're going to run the ball a lot. And
I agree on that too. I think, like you said, with Garoppolo, he only threw 29 passes a game, which is really low for a starting quarterback. And I think to start out with Wilson, he could sort of be in that range where he's throwing a pretty low number of passes. And they focus on running the ball. So,
Robert Saleh even said it that this team is going to uplift you, and obviously he means that in a team building perspective. But I also think, in a coaching perspective, that they're not going to try to overload him with too much. I think they're not going to try to have him play hero ball. So while they're going to air it out certainly a lot more than Sanchez's green light, red light rookie season, I do think that they're going to have – I think he's going to have a fairly low amount of I think a 29 passing attempts per game is a fair number for him.
Yeah, so I think he'll be right there. I think he'll be pretty efficient per attempt. And I'm looking like 3,600 yards is what my goal would be for 16 games. But moving on to the whole roster, because we talked some specific offense, specific defense. But looking at the entire team, who do you think is the most underrated player on the roster right now? Answer in 2 seconds.
That's
all right, you lose. It's my turn.
Okay,
John Franklin Myers, and it's not even close. He's a beast, elite pass rusher on the interior, third best pressure rate among interior D linemen last season. He's a monster.
Well, yeah, I think that was. I was trying to think of something else than John Franklin Myers, and if you stall for a minute, maybe I can think of one. Because quite honestly, he was my answer as well. But
I can rattle off some more underrated guys.
No. You got to take them all. I guess I'm trying to think of somebody in the offensive side of the ball. There's a few different ways to think about this, and one of them is, Connor Mcgovern is kind of the way is the guy I keep coming back to, and I don't necessarily think that's because he played so much better than people have him rated. In some aspects, maybe some fans overrate him in some ways. I think center is still very much a potential future need for this team. I hope that he can have a great season and solidify that spot. But I do think that he is certainly a better player than we saw last year. And I think from that perspective, he is a bit underrated. And I think he's going to get a lot of help in this scheme. And you were a big Connor Mcgovern fan. And I guess, maybe address some of this. Some of the things that he struggled with last year were really not prevalent in his game in Denver. It seemed like he was just having some communication issues. And maybe this is, a symptom of playing next to not, the best offensive guards. And there was some rotation going on there. It was a tough position for the Jets durability wise. Do you think that Connor Mcgovern is better than, I guess, what we saw in 2020? And how much better do you think he can be in 2021?
Yeah, I think he's a good pick as an underrated player because his overall Pro Football Focus grade was pretty bad last year. And, he was definitely not the player he was with the Broncos the year before. But I think he run blocked really well, and it was just in pass protection, like blitzes, stun pickups, helping guys out when he didn't have an assignment, stuff like that. He really struggled with. But the positive thing is he was really good in those areas for the Broncos the year before. So it was very odd to see him struggle at those things. But at the same time, right now you can be optimistic because he can do it. So it's possible for him to turn it around. So I feel like he definitely wasn't good last season, but I feel like he wasn't as bad as some numbers out there suggest. And he definitely has the talent to still be a top 10 sort of center in the game, that 10 to 12 range. So he is a fairly good pick for the most underrated player on the roster. But looking at the opposite side, who do you think is the most overrated player on the roster? So our first negative question here, because we got to balance it out, got to be fair. So for you, most overrated player on the roster, I'll give you 5 seconds this time. So almost triple
5 seconds.
last
Hold
time.
on.
4, 3.
Oh God.
2.
I have an answer.
1.
I'm just deciding if I want to alienate myself from the Jets fan base.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think of
an
easier, more digestible one.
Do it.
Okay, I'll say Denzel Mims, and that doesn't mean that I don't like Denzel.
I like
Mims.
it. I like the boldness.
I do like Denzel Mims a lot, and I think it's hard though because I think his stock has actually fallen so much dramatically after minicamp, which is just so dumb because it's minicamp, and LaFleur even said himself, this guy just needs reps. And I actually do like Denzel Mims, and I think he has a very good shot at being the Jets' starting receiver of the future. But I think, and this is a player we're going to get to a little bit, or a question we're going to get to a little bit later, but sometimes, as fans, we maybe overrate our own talent and maybe ignore some deficiencies or overrate some moments. And I think Denzel Mims definitely had some flashes last year, which, look, and the situation that he was in was about all you could hope for. But I definitely don't think we should act like it was some amazing rookie season or that it answered a lot of questions that he can be a number one receiver in this league or that he can be a starting receiver. I like that the Jets were aggressive in the depth that they provided, not just because Zach Wilson's never going to be left throwing to just a bunch of bums, but because it does give you some Mims assurance. I like Denzel Mims. I was trying to come up with maybe a little bit more palatable answer just because I think Mims' stock has fallen. So now he's getting underrated a little bit. But certainly before minicamp, I think there was a little bit of an overrate on Denzel Mims as far as, okay, well, this guy's immediately our starting receiver. It's like, well, hold on. He had some nice catches, some nice contested catches, but his route running is far from where it needs to be. He's not necessarily the most ideal scheme fit, so the Jets are going to have to build a role for him, or he's going to just have to develop more as a player. He certainly struggled with injuries last year, and I think that does matter when you're evaluating player. So there are definitely question marks for him. But hell, I still really like him. I really hope that he can be a starting outside receiver for the Jets for a long time. And I'm excited about his potential. But I think there are some Jets fans out there that overrate Denzel Mims as the next big thing at receiver, where I think he still has a lot to prove on the field. What about you?
Yeah, that's a really nuanced take about Mims, and that's the thing here. Nothing that we say is going to be baseless. But I guess for me, I'm going to go with a fairly new name on this roster. I'm going to go with Morgan Moses. I feel like
that's a good one.
That's a very good one. Is a very positive ad in a lot of different ways. It's very good for the depth of this team. The fact that George Fant is now your top backup tackle instead of Chuma Edoga, that's big. The experience that he brings for Vera Tucker, for Becton, just all the young guys in the line, that's big. But at the same time, I feel like there is this sort of consensus among the fan base that the Jets added another superstar to their line. And, based on his grading last season, he kind of was. He was, I believe, a top 10 graded tackle, sixth best among right tackles. So that was good, but you look at his full body work for that, he's consistently pretty average on a yearly basis. This year was an outlier, so we'll see if he can maintain that. And even just watching his film, I feel like he's pretty good. He's a starting NFL tackle. I would say he's above average, but I don't think he's a superstar, and he kind of has been treated as like a superstar addition.
Right. There's a reason he got released.
Yeah, there's a reason he got released. There's a reason that he's getting paid pretty much the same amount as Dan Feeney, Alex Lewis, Greg Van Roten. At the same time, very excited to have him. Great move. It's awesome. It's
Yeah,
a great ad, but he's not a star. I would just hold back on that, on looking at him that way.
Yeah, I think that he is definitely going to help in the run game, and I think he's going to solidify that right side for Zach Wilson, so that it's not going to be a constant turnstile for him. But I agree. I don't think that it alleviates all the pressure on Zach Wilson coming from the right side. I still think that the right side is going to have its struggles, unless I mean, it's still going to have its struggles if this is the case. But I do like the idea of playing Moses at guard and Fan at tackle because I think that gives the Jets their best 5 on the field. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that is actually the best answer. I think he is definitely the most overrated player on the team for sure. I think that is the best answer you could have. I guess. Well, I guess we should hop into the next one because I think this kind of relays a little bit to what I was just talking about with Denzel Mims. But which young player do you think will take the biggest leap? Because Mims is certainly a candidate. I guess I'll hand this one out to you first, and then I'll give my take.
I'm gonna go with Bryce Hall. He comes to mind first.
Oh, did I answer it first?
All right, I'll go to a backup.
No. I'll go to a backup. It's
okay. I'll take Bryce Hall. I feel like the scheme fit is good. I feel like his production last season was really legitimate considering the circumstances. Considering that he missed so much time, came back in the middle of the season, was playing in a bad secondary with not much of a pass rush in front of him, and played some really good receivers while he was out there. And he was a fairly average starting quarterback, which is really impressive considering all those things. Most rookies last year were awful. All of them, from Jeff Okuda on down, terrible. But he came in and he was an okay starter, battling through everything he had to battle through. And that's really impressive to me. So I think this is a good scheme fit for him where his instincts can really stand out. He's a very fundamentally sound player, a very smart player. I think that's going to stand out in this scheme. So I like Bryce Hall's chances of breaking out this year.
Yeah, I seriously hope it's somebody from that 2020 draft class because I think that would really bolster it for the future of this team. I mean, I think right now the only one that you're fairly confident in is Mekhi Becton, but there's still some injury question marks. And then I think there's a lot of question marks. I think Denzel Mims, Bryce Hall, and Braden Mann are positive question marks, guys who showed legitimate flashes. There's guys like Ashton Davis who showed minimal flashes, but you like his athletic potential. And then there's guys like Jabari Zuniga, James Morgan, Cameron Clark, guys who we haven't seen at all. So if there's somebody from that group, that's what I think Bryce Hall's a fantastic answer because I think it would obviously fulfill a huge need for the Jets. I think you're right. I think he has a legitimate chance because he had some great flashes last year and he's such an ideal scheme fit. I'm going to go with Chris Herndon. That's who I'm going to go with. I think similar reasons. I think the scheme fit is going to help him out. This is obviously a scheme that likes its tight ends, and the Jets' tight end spot is the weakest position on their offense, and somebody needs to step up there. I think the thing with Herndon, and we talked about this a little bit last week, I believe, was that his pass blocking grade was very good. And I think because he has some blocking potential, he's going to find his way on the field. And we went kind of back and forth on, well, maybe Croft is going to start more games. Maybe Herndon's going to start more games. That's certainly possible. He can certainly lose his starting position. But I just love his athletic ceiling. I think we saw it in 2018, and I think he's the perfect candidate on this team for a post-Gase revival. I think he's really the only candidate that is, I mean, unless you're looking at maybe Mcgovern or Fant. I don't think Mims really counts. I think he's the ideal guy of a guy who showed flashes. Gase comes in, a lot of those flashes are negated, and then Gase leaves, and I think you're going to see him succeed. I just think this West Coast offense is going to give him a lot of opportunities to kind of just dominate over the middle, get chances to get the ball in his hands. I like Chris Herndon a lot. I still believe in Chris Herndon. I'm not adding him in, or I'm not drafting him in any fantasy leagues like you, Michael. But I think he's going to take.
I definitely won't be doing that this year.
Was that 2 years in a row?
The last 2 years, though, I did. So, I want to disagree with you on one point there. I'm okay with the pick of Herndon overall, but I feel like the post Gase point doesn't really apply with him because his struggles were individual. It's like he's dropping the ball. I don't think Adam Gase was telling him to do that, or if he had some juju, he was cursing him to do that.
It was a negative vibe in the building that Gase was casting, so that's what I'm going to chalk it up to. I think they could have found a better way to get him going. I think you're right. I think he had a lot of individual struggles, but I didn't really see there was much of an effort from Adam Gase to find creative and different ways to get his head back in the game. And I will say another thing that I didn't mention is that Chris Herndon definitely started to improve towards the end of the season. I mean, he definitely was a lot better the last 4 games of the season than the first 12. So I think he's trending upwards. But I mean, I think Mike Gesicki, you look at what he did in Miami under Gase and then how he's been since then. I think he, just at the tight end position, it was not a position in Gase's offense that was utilized very well outside of Julius Thomas that one season.
Yeah, so I think that's fair. And there's also one play that comes to mind against the Colts in week 3 where Herndon made a really good scrambling play. He got himself wide open for what could have been somewhere around a 50-yard touchdown. And Darnold scrambled to the same side of the field. The throw was there, and Darnold didn't make it. I believe he threw it away. So that improvised production was a big part of
maybe you can call it the post Gase, post Darnold.
And Darnold just wasn't making as many of those improvised plays this year. And I feel like more so in this specific area, Darnold was kind of limiting Herndon more so than the other way around in terms of the improvised production. Because I feel like Herndon did have some of those good improvised routes where he didn't get rewarded, specifically that one against the Colts. So he's a good pick. I'm not going to get on that train. I'm going to stay off of it. I'll hop right back on it if he picks it up early in the season, but I'm going to stay away, but I could see the rationale for him.
Which, I guess on the flip side of that, which hype young player do you think won't improve as much?
Well, I mean, I guess I kind of made the whole Chris Herndon pick.
Okay, somebody else.
I'll go with someone else then. Which young player won't improve as much as we think they will? Can I stall a little bit? Do you have anyone who comes to mind immediately?
We really did our homework on this one, ladies and gentlemen.
This is supposed to be raw and off the top.
I did kind of make it sound like we had prepared our answers, and that wasn't necessarly entirely. We looked at it.
You said we don't know each other's answers.
That's
true. We also don't know our own answers.
Well, like it kind of. How much do you? Ashton Davis is my answer, but I guess it comes down to how much do you think hyped?
I was eyeing him down.
Okay,
go ahead.
I think it's how much do you put on how much weight do you put on the word hyped? Because like you could say an answer like Jabari Zuniga, who I could very well just see never making an impact and getting cut in a year, and just what the hell was that pick? But he doesn't really feel like an applicable answer because nobody's really talking about him at all, which makes me think maybe he will contribute a little bit. I think Davis is a guy that going into the offseason, many people thought was just a lock to be a starting safety, which I'm glad the Jets didn't do. I'm glad the Jets are going to give him another year to be as a third safety, rotational safety, and maybe a starting safety by the end of the year. But hey, I think it's certainly possible. I like his athletic potential. I like his fit in the scheme. It's a 2-deep system. He's going to get to play a lot more free safety than strong safety, which I know he succeeded a little bit more in the box last year, but I think his strengths certainly lie as a free safety, roaming the field, taking advantage of that athletic ability. Certainly he can get down in the box, but he's just a little small for me to want to put him there. I certainly think he can. I'm not the biggest Ashton Davis believer. He got cooked in that Kansas City game, and granted, he's a rookie going up against the best offense in the league, but he had a few moments last year that was just some boneheaded safety moments, and I think he can certainly get over it. But if I had to choose somebody, I have to be negative about somebody, I'll say Ashton Davis doesn't make the jump to becoming a full-time starter, and rather his career turns out to be more of a third safety special teamer, which would still be a valuable role, and as long as he contributes, not a horrible third rounder.
Yeah, that's a solid pick. And you mentioned Zuniga, who I think
Don't do it.
A really good pick for this one, but like you said,
yeah,
I'm not going to do it because there's just not enough hype to where that's something that is a hot take in any way. So I'm gonna go with another Florida Gator. I'll go with Michael Pirine.
Oh, that is not a hot take. Everybody knows you hate Michael Pirine.
I think he has some hype. I think he does. There's some Pirine believers out there. I'm going to search it on Twitter right now.
For the 8th time this
offseason. I bet I can find someone hyping him up in 2 seconds.
You probably can. But all right, again, let's hear why you don't like Michael
This guy says Michael Pirine will score the first touchdown of the season. This guy still likes the talent of Pirine, and he's not afraid to admit it. Well, you should be because he's bad. So yeah. All right, so I'll go with Michael Pirine. I think he's still going to make the roster over Josh Adams. I don't see Joe Douglas giving up that early, but I don't see him getting featured over Ty Johnson, Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman. I feel like he's gonna flame out by I think 2022 off season he gets cut. Ultimately, I just don't see a special skill that he offers. If he's going to stick, I think he needs to be really solid at a lot of different things, be that jack of all trades guy. And as a rookie, he wasn't solid enough all around. His pass blocking was okay. His hands were okay. He had a couple drops. And then his power game, he had some power conversions, but he also had his overall power rushing wasn't above average. It was pretty average. So he's just kind of a guy to me who's just pretty mediocre at everything right now. So I'll go with Pirine.
All right, I guess moving ahead, when you look at this team and kind of what we're hoping for the team, it's to be competitive. I don't think anybody's putting a playoff mandate on this team. I certainly think there is a scenario where the Jets sneak in, but that's not my expectation for the season. Hell, it's not even my goal for the season. I just want competitive, fun football. I want the Jets to be alive for the majority of the season, just hang around 500, win some games you're not supposed to, probably blow some games they should win. So we'll start there. What do you think is, and look, this is a hard question because when you look at the Jets schedule, there's not many teams you can definitely say are worse than the Jets because the Jets haven't proved anything yet. But what do you think is an easy game per se that you think the Jets will blow?
I feel like that Bengals game. I'm kind of like we were talking before.
No way.
We started recording.
No, it's on Halloween. They're going to be wearing the all blacks in the day. They're undefeated in the all black jerseys during day games because it's the cleanest look. No way they lose that game.
I don't know. I feel like the Bengals. I like year 2 Joe Burrow. I can see a breakout coming.
Just the uniform.
Actually, I don't like that defense. Their defense is pretty bad.
You could make an argument for the Bengals because I almost did, and then I was like, hey, it's Halloween. Jets are totally going to wear their all blacks uniforms. No chance they lose in the day in those. So
I don't know. I mean, the previous games they're at New England coming out of the bye, so maybe they get a big win there, and this could be a letdown game. I don't know.
Hey, you look at the blueprint to beating the Jets. It's to have a great receiving core and take advantage of these terrible corners. Force the Jets to go into their dime packages to dig deep into their secondary, which they clearly don't have the arsenal for. And the Bengals have some good weapons. Now, their offensive line sucks, and their defense isn't great. But year 2 Joe Burrow, I am a Burrow fan. And I think they do have the weapons to exploit some Jets defensive backs needs. And yeah, if the Jets pick up a big win against the Patriots, this is certainly a trap game heading into a short week against Indianapolis. I don't think the Bengals are a bad choice at all. I was kind of kidding about the uniforms, but not really.
Yeah, I think the Bengals would be my choice. I was going to kind of analyze some of the other ones, but
Okay,
I'll let you go ahead. No, you go ahead. Say your pick for the easy game that they have good odds to blow. Not good odds, but could blow.
Okay, I guess I'll do kind of what you were going to do a little bit, which is what are the easy games in the schedule?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like, I guess Panthers, Bengals, Eagles, Texans.
No. Well, a little bit. Yeah, okay. I don't know if I throw the Panthers in there. I don't think I qualify as an easy game. I guess which game should the Jets be favored in?
Right. Like, I wouldn't say the Panthers are easy, but like they're probably one of the ones on this.
I would say the three.
Say they're evenly matched or favored.
Okay, I think the Bengals are there. I think the Texans are there. I think the Eagles are there, and I think maybe the Jaguars.
Yeah, and Jacksonville. I was going to say.
I think I don't think I'd put the Panthers there. Most people pick the Panthers. I know they were picking top 10 this year, but and ultimately, I actually don't think they're going to be as great. But I'm not going to include them in this. I'm going to say the Eagles because. I think they're going to beat the Texans. I think the Eagles represent for my ideal hope for the season is I hope the Jets are hovering around 500. This is going to be their first game in December football. They have 6 games to go at this point. I think they should be coming off a win against Houston, and I'm just trying to put myself in that mindset of, okay, we're heading down to the wire. We have a chance. We have to win the last 5 out of the 6 games or whatever. And the Eagles seem like a matchup the Jets should win. I'm not a big Hurts guy. I don't really like what they've done the last few years. I don't think
Joe Flacco revenge game.
It could be Joe Flacco. I think I guess that depends how bad Jalen Hurts is.
Revenge game.
I think by the end of the season, you can
layers here.
I don't really love what the Eagles are doing. I mean, from a team building perspective, I love the amount of draft capital they have the next few years, but I don't think the Eagles are going to be very good this year. I think this is a rebuilding season for them. So I think heading into this game, the Jets should be the favorite of the team, and it just seems like a trap game. I mean, the Saints are the next week, and I don't know. I just think that's a game where it's like, okay, the Jets might actually be, by the time we get to this game, the more talented team on paper, but they could still end up losing it. So I'll say the Eagles.
I like that pick. We talked when we broke down the schedule about how good offensive lines for opponents could be a tough matchup for the Jets, because if their pass rush is shut down, that's when the pressure is really going to get put on those cornerbacks. Even though the Eagles don't have a good wide receiver group on paper, obviously
Hey,
they Devontae Smith, but beyond that, pretty unproven. And he is a rookie, so you don't know what he'll bring to the table. But they still have a really good offensive line with Brandon Brooks coming back, still Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey. So they have a good offensive line, so they can shut down the Jets' pass rush.
Definitely.
They can cause problems for this secondary, and then they also have a great defensive line. So if the Jets are banged up on the offensive line at this point of the season, could cause a lot of havoc. So this is a pretty good pick. The Eagles are definitely not a good team. I'd expect the Jets to have a better record than them at this point, but there are reasons to see potential upset here. So I guess looking at the other end of it, what do you think is a game on the schedule that is seen as difficult or should be considered difficult, but the Jets might actually match up pretty well?
Week 2, New England Patriots. I think that, especially if the Jets beat the Panthers week 1, which is a bit of a toss-up. The Jets fan of me believes that they're definitely going to go and lose that game, but there's definitely a chance they can win it. But regardless, okay, if they beat the Panthers, that crowd against New England, 1-0, Robert Saleh, new era. I think the fan base is all, I mean, hey, it's only taken 7 months, and I think this fan base is bought in fully to this team and the way they're moving. And as I said, I don't think there's any sort of playoff mandate, but I think what the Jets are trying to do is, revitalize this fan base. And I think they've done their part in the offseason. Now they got to put it on the field. And it just kind of reminds me a little bit of I guess the type of atmosphere you're hoping is that 2009 week 2 game against the Patriots, where it just has to be a complete Jets fan base. It just has to be a complete crowd. I think you're going to that game, Michael. I'm going to that game.
Yep.
It just kind of feels like the perfect storm, the home opener that the Jets could either tragically let us all down, but I kind of feel like the Patriots aren't as good as they're being presented. I keep seeing them in these most improved teams lists, and I didn't really love their offseason. I mean, I think they made some moves. I like Jonnu Smith a lot, but I think they overpaid for some guys. They just really went completely against what we've seen the Patriots do in the Belichick era. And just because they signed some high price free agents, we've seen in the past that doesn't necessarily translate to wins. I think Bill Belichick is a fantastic coach, but at this point, I think it'll probably be Cam Newton, who I think is over the hill. I don't think the Patriots are going to be that good this season. And I think the Jets, going into this game, I think the Patriots going to be the favorite, especially right now. They're the favorite. But I think the Jets definitely have a good chance to steal it. And hey, if they beat the Panthers week 1, I think the Jets definitely take this game, because I think the energy riding into that game is going to be insane. And then I think you might see the Jets go on a bit of a losing streak against the Broncos and the Titans or whatever. But I like their odds against the Patriots. I'm not fully bought in on their offseason.
I'm actually going to go with the team that you just mentioned, second home game of the year. I'm going to go with the Titans.
Disagree. Very much disagree.
All right, well, let me explain. So the Titans are going to be good this year. They have a really good roster. I'm not questioning that they're a good team at all. But I do think it is worth considering that, they've built a lot of hype. That offense, deservedly so. They could be the best offense in the league. Their defense isn't good, though. It's pretty bad. They were 27th in points allowed per drive last season, 30th in yards allowed per drive, and they didn't really get too much better this offseason. They actually lost Jadeveon Clowney, who was pretty good for them, and Adoree Jackson as well. So I don't think, even though the Titans are going to put up points on the Jets, but I feel like the Jets could have a chance to get in a shootout with them, and having home field advantage, maybe pull this one out. So I feel like I just think it's worth considering that the Titans have a lot of offensive hype, but their defense is not good.
Are you confident with Bless Austin covering AJ Brown?
I'm not saying the Jets are going to win. All I'm saying is that they can put up
with
points on
Isaiah
this team.
Dunn
That's
on
all.
Julio Jones. Like, I mean, maybe it'll be Bryce Hall, but yeah, I just think this offense is just going to be too much. And another thing to keep in mind is, well, look, their defense wasn't great last year, but they do have Mike Vrabel, a defensive-minded head coach. I do anticipate this defense being a little bit better. They did make some moves. The other thing to remember is that the Jets offense that they run is actually very similar to the offense that the Titans have run under Arthur Smith and presumably will continue to run. So it's an offense that their defense is familiar with. And I think that tends to favor the defense. So I do think the Titans are going to be prepared for the type of offense the Jets are going to run. Now, look, every NFL team has faced these type of Shanahan, LaFleur, McVay type offenses now, and Mike LaFleur is going to have his own spin on it. But the Titans they go up against a very similar offense every day in practice. The Jets' number one receiver was in Tennessee last year. I don't anticipate the Jets winning that at all. I just think there's way too much offensive firepower, particularly at that receiver spot. And then they can run it down your throat with Derrick Henry. So there's not really, the Jets are in a position where they're going to have to play coverage to, make up for the cornerback deficits that they have. And then the Titans can just run the ball with Derrick Henry on open boxes. And while I like the Jets defensive line, and I think that they actually will be very good against the run, I don't know. I don't see the Jets beating the Titans. I think that's a game that they very much will lose. But you never know. I mean, hey, that's a perfect example of a game that they shouldn't win that they do. So I can't hate on that answer. Now this is kind of similar to, and we have two more here. This is kind of similar to which young player won't improve as much or most overrated player. And I've kind of gone back and forth the answer, but I'm going to ask you first here. So I'm going to give you about 7 seconds to stall here while I ask the question. But I think one of the mistakes when I look back on our podcast last year was I think we were a little bit too lenient on Sam Darnold. And look, he certainly gave us plenty of flashes to believe in it. It wasn't, I think it was kind of, he was at a crossroads going into the season. And I think there was plenty of reasons to believe that he was going to take the next step, as there were to believe that he was going to falter. But I think we didn't really acknowledge as many of his weaknesses. I don't think it was, yeah, I think that's just a good way to lay it out, is that he was kind of at a crossroads. It was 50% chance he was going to really push through some of those flaws and really capitalize on a lot of the good things he did in 2019. And then there was equally as good of a chance that he was going to, those issues were going to get magnified as more teams had tape on him and he's under a bad coach, Adam Gase, et cetera. And I think we were too lenient on it. We didn't really, while we did do podcasts on him and we examined his weaknesses and stuff, I think we were maybe a little bit too lenient on him. And do you think there's a player on this current roster that we all love, Jets fans all love, there's a lot of positivity around, and I think we're being a little too lenient? And I would try for you to answer this with a player we haven't talked about already. So with that said, Michael, which player in this current team is getting the Sam Darnold leniency?
Wow, this is a really good topic because I feel like it hits on various different aspects of, underrated, overrated. It's just a detailed way of looking at this because it's kind of like you're trying to put yourself in the future and think about which player down the line you're going to look at. Like, in the past, we were kind of ignoring his flaws too much. So you're trying to look at which guy right now are we looking at as if I know what his flaws are, but I'm kind of burying them more than I should be. This is a tough one.
Really tough one.
Because I feel like there are kind of a lot of guys that I do this with, but I don't really want to admit it.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of like complete question marks where there's too many guys on this team where we don't have enough data. I think Darnold, we have enough data to say, okay, here is his weaknesses and here are his strengths, and his career could go either way. But a lot of these young guys, especially in the cornerback room, we just don't have in other spots in this roster. We just don't have enough data to say one way or another whether or not they, that they'll be good or bad.
Right. And that's a really good point. The Jets, a lot of their young players, really small sample sizes, and there's not a lot to go off of. So basically what I've been doing is stalling while I scan the roster here.
Well, okay, hold on. Maybe I think this might make it a little easier. It's not necessarily whether or not we'll think they'll be good or bad. It's more about the leniency they get. And I mean, You can answer whatever way you want, but I think which player are we being too lenient on? It doesn't mean that they're going to suck or that we think they're going to be good right now and then, in actuality they're going to suck. But it's just which player are we it's kind of overhyping, but it is, kind of bearing those. Okay, thank you. I was just stalling for you.
All right. Cameron Clark.
No,
We've been
fuck you.
talking about this guy
No.
like he's going to be the next coming at right guard. He can't even get first team reps in 2
Okay. Well,
years.
we don't have any data on him to say that. I mean, you just had a redshirt year.
We had to pick someone. I'm going with Cameron Carr.
Can you give some more? um, can you give some background there while I think of mine?
Again, like I think it's just, you know, he's a 4th round pick from Conference USA, and a lot of us are just hoping he's going to break out and win the right guard position, which he didn't play in college and has to transition to. And there's just been no positive buzz.
Okay.
He hasn't
All right.
gone.
I've
Wait,
got an answer.
I'm actually explaining it. I'm
Oh,
not
okay. Sorry,
stalling.
I legitimately thought you were stalling.
And
Okay.
so it absolutely still could happen. I hope it does. I think he has really good tape from Charlotte, especially against Clemson. But like, I think ultimately we're going to look back. He's never going to play for the Jets, and we're going to wonder why we hoped he was going to be the next coming at right guard. That's what's most likely to happen, but hopefully it doesn't.
All right. I have 2 answers here. One is going to be supremely controversial, and one is only going to be controversial to you. Which one would you rather hear?
Let's go with the supremely controversial.
I know. Actually, I'm going to go with the one to you first because I think it's a
Okay.
little easier to figure
So
out.
why did you ask?
I don't know. I don't actually care about your answer. Well, no. While you're saying is, I think I'll start with this one because the second one's going to be, or the first one's going to be more of a surprise. So the one that you're going to be extremely offended by is Braden Mann.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I thought about it.
I don't think he was amazing last year. And look, he's a rookie punter, and I certainly think there's room for him to grow. I do anticipate that he's going to be great. But throughout the season, and you included this, Michael, a lot of people were acting like he was having some great rookie season. It wasn't like he was that much better than Lachlan Edwards, I'll say. I mean, I like his certainly. He started to handle kickoffs towards the end of the season, which I like. I mean, Brent Boyer had said going into the season that he doesn't like having his punters do that because it can mess with their punting motion, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think he did a better job on kickoffs. I think he certainly has potential. I think he got a little bit better as the season went on, but it wasn't like he was downing guys inside the 5 like I think we thought he would. I think I was a little bit disappointed in his pooch punts. It seems like he was getting it inside the 20, but he was being a little too conservative on it. There was one punt in particular. I'm trying to think of who it was against that he had a really nice punt, but it didn't get down inside he had a lot of time before the Jets got down there and they just didn't get there. But I didn't really feel like I think he's getting some leniency. Everybody's acting like he's the answer at punter. It's like, I mean, look, he's a draft pick, so he's going to get the next few years. I think he did a great job as a holder. There wasn't any mistakes there, knock on wood.
He had a really good hold. Love Thomas Hennessy, but he had a bad snap against the Niners on an extra point, and Mann bailed him out. Great hold.
And Mann proved himself certainly as a tackler. And it's not like he had an awful rookie season. The questions about like leniency and kind of burying their flaws a little bit. And I think Braden Mann is getting hyped up like he's a top 5 punter in the league. And I think he's far from that. I think he is in the same boat as a lot of these Jets young players where some good flashes, but he's got to prove himself. He's not a Pro Bowler yet. So are we ending the podcast or are you?
No, I actually agree with you. And I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't have the courage to go against him. But, you're right. I think he definitely didn't play that well on an individual level. But I do think he improved significantly in the second half of the season, and I'm confident he's going to end up being a good punter. But you're right, he definitely didn't. The tackles are great. That aspect of it, he's phenomenal. That's legitimately positive that he can do that. But actual punting, he had some shanks, and he didn't have many special punts. Second half of the season, he did improve though. Especially at just limiting opposing returns, just with more hang time, better accuracy, pinning guys to the sideline. So I feel like he's going to be a good player, but you're right. He wasn't in his rookie season. So he's got to prove it first.
Yeah. Lack Edwards had a higher yards per attempt on his punts. I just had to double check that before I said it. In every single year, except for his rookie season, than Braden Mann averaged 43.9 yards per punt. And Lack Edwards, outside of his rookie year in 2016, where he averaged 43.1, averaged 46.6, 45.9, and 45.9. I think Braden Mann beat him on the hang time. I don't see any stat there, but just visually, I think he hit some boomers, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think he was good, not great. That's how I would kind of review him. I think going into the season, I thought we were getting a very good punter right off the bat. Like I thought we were getting a guy that day one was just going to be an amazing punter just based off his college film and how much hype he had. And I think the Jets have a fine punting prospect, but was that worth the 6th-round pick? I mean, only time will tell. All right, the other one, and I think Braden, I should just stop here because I think Braden Mann's a good answer. And again, I'm going to emphasize that this is on leniency, and this is, are we ignoring their flaws? Honestly, this one has nothing to do with whether or not I think they're going to be a good player or not. I think there are some Jets fans that are ignoring a particular flaw that can be fatal to one's career. Mekhi Becton. And the only flaw I'm giving is that I am extremely concerned about his injury, his potential for injury. And look, I know you posted that video on Jets X Factor that he's slimming down, he's going down in weight, and that's all well and good, and that's going to help his injuries. But this is a guy that, and you had the stats for it, in your article, but I believe he only played from start to finish 8 games. He only missed 2 games, which I guess is good, but he only played every snap in 8 games. And I think that is mildly concerning. The fact that he already has plantar fasciitis, which is not necessarily an easy injury, one that just goes away. That's an injury that can linger. I think he certainly displayed his toughness. By the end of the season, he actually didn't look in as good a shape as he was in the beginning of the season. He looked a little bit bigger. And he just, on his sheer size and athleticism, I think he was still performing at a high level. But those injuries are scary. I mean, I think the one thing that DeBrickashaw Ferguson brought you was just complete stability at the left tackle spot, which is pretty much the biggest thing you want in your left tackle is just stability and consistency. Your quarterback doesn't have to worry about your blind side. And when Mekhi Becton's on the field, Zach Wilson doesn't have to worry about his blind side. But if he can't stay on the field, Zach Wilson has to worry about his blind side. And I think that is just something to keep in mind with Becton, is that I love him. I think he is going to make a run to be one of the best tackles in the league if he's not already. But that injury history is concerning, and it's something that, we really have to see Mekhi Becton play more games this year, and not be consistently injured, because it wasn't just the games he was missing. It just seems like he was constantly ailing. I mean, it seems like there was plenty of times where he was on the field where he just looked injured, but he was just playing through it. And that's all well and good when you're 22, but when you're 29, that's just a little harder. I think it's just something to examine. I love Mekhi Becton. I think he's a great player. I think he's one of the best players on this team. He might even be my favorite player on the team, which is I've never said about an offensive lineman. But some Jets fans are ignoring the fact that injury history and potential for injuries is very scary.
Yeah, that's both of your picks. I'm really glad you came out and picked a couple guys who I did look at and consider, but didn't really
you did.
want to touch it.
I'm sure you did. And then you came out with Cam Clark.
I did. I'm telling you, I looked at Braden Mann. I was like, should I talk about him? No, I like him too much. But
so you admit that was the point of this question, is that there are guys that we're a little too lenient on, and I think Braden Mann was the perfect answer for you. You're too lenient on him. You're too lenient on Lack, and you're too lenient on Braden Mann. You need to be tougher on Braden.
You got me.
Does he follow you on Twitter? Is that why?
No, he doesn't.
Hasn't he retweeted your stuff before?
I don't think so. So he doesn't deserve my leniency.
Yeah,
you suck,
exactly.
Braden Mann.
Yeah,
okay. 30th in net average.
You. Okay,
get out of here.
All right. This last question is going to be the most controversial.
Thanks for the 3 tackles, though.
Hey, I give him credit on that. There's not many punters that are going to make the tackles.
I'm kidding.
He cost the Jets.
We love you, Braden Mann.
All right, this is the most controversial, and I know Michael's answer already, and I think it's terrible. I think it's an awful answer. Obviously, the Jets' new uniforms have gotten some flack. Some people have come around on it. I personally think that there are plenty of uniforms in the NFL that would be perceived as terrible if they were losing as much as the Jets were. In other words, a large part of a uniform is just if you win in it, it just becomes cool. I think the Titans are a good example. When they first came out, they were panned, and I think their first year they weren't very good. And now that they're good, everybody seems to love the Titans uniforms. Packers are a great example. Some of the worst uniforms I've ever seen are in sports, Green Bay Packers. But they have a great tradition. Examine it objectively. Yellow and green don't go together. But great tradition, great fan base. When you see the Green Bay Packers uniform, you love it. I love the Green Bay Packers uniform. I'm just saying, if some team were to drop a green and yellow uniform like that today, I don't think it would be received very well. So, with that being said, I think the Jets uniforms, if they win, I think the the fan base will come around on them. The fact that they've sucked in them and it's just tainted by the Adam Gase era. A lot of people don't like him as much, and they already want the Jets to change him. But hey, if they start winning games and going to playoff games in these uniforms under Robert Saleh, I think a lot of people will be fine with the Jets uniforms. But what do you think is the worst uniform combo, Michael, that the Jets have put out there? There's just the green on white. There's the green on green, the white on white, white on green, black on black. They haven't tried the black on green or the black on white or the green on black. They haven't played around with that, which I actually do think they kind of should. I'd like to see maybe green jersey, black pants, which isn't, well, actually maybe not. But I don't know. They haven't played around with those combos yet. But out of the ones we've seen, which do you think is the worst? And there's a very, very obvious answer here. And based off our previous conversation, I don't think you're going to say it.
Well, I think there are two candidates, and both of them involve the green jersey. Number one would be green jersey and white pants, and number two would be green jersey and green pants. And when we were discussing this for the podcast, initially I said white pants. Then you convinced me back to green pants.
What?
Okay.
The whole point was to have debate. Stick to your guns here.
Listen, I'm
Michael said that
explaining
the green
what my
on
answer
white, the quintessential New York Jets uniform was the worst of the bunch.
You convinced me to green pants, but then I was thinking back. When did our uniforms look the worst? Or the Jets uniforms? I'm not on the Jets. And the two games that came to mind.
Yeah, you don't even buy the real uniform.
Yeah. Just had to expose me. I buy Chinese jerseys, everyone.
You did get 3 jerseys for the price of one, though.
Half the price of one.
Oh, Jesus. So. They don't look too bad. I got to give them that.
It's closer to one. But anyway, I thought back, which games did they look the worst? And I thought week 1 against the Bills this year and week 15 against the Rams. And both of those were green on white.
I don't know if
I didn't like it. It was weird. But
there's a very obvious answer to which games they look the worst. And
I'm going green on white. I think green on green is underrated.
Oh, my God. You disgust me. I think, as I said earlier, if the Jets start winning these uniforms, I think my feelings towards them are certainly going to go up. But green and white is the quintessential New York Jets uniform. I don't think they looked that bad in either of those games. I think the worst part about the unis this year was the patch they were wearing, but obviously I understand why they were wearing it. And then in 2019, they had it looked pretty cheap, the NFL 100 logo. This year's going to be the first time we're going to get the full Jets uniforms. The green on green looked terrible against the Patriots in 2019.
Other than that game,
I was there in person.
I exclude that game in my evaluation.
Why the hell did they wear black? Wasn't that the whole point of coming out with black unis, is that you could wear it during prime time? And I think they look very good in the day, as we've talked about earlier. But the whole point was to get to wear them in prime time, and then you wear all green and then the white socks. I'll give you this. I think the all green looked a lot better with the green socks against Cleveland. Obviously, this is nuanced, intelligent football talk right here, but all green is the easy answer. I also think Darnold had made the unis look way worse, because I think the number 1 and the number 4 were particularly bad in this uniform. He wore the long baggy sleeves, which just in these uniforms are 3 to 4 inches of just extra green fabric, which just don't look good at all. It just doesn't look like it belongs. They look a lot better with the short sleeves that Zach Wilson will be wearing. His helmet didn't make the logo look very good. I mean, he just didn't have any swag. So I think Zach Wilson with the headband and the arm sleeve and the short jersey sleeves is going to make it look a lot better. And the big thing's winning. So you don't agree with me that I like the Packers uniform. Just the point is that a lot of designs, if you examine them, I think that the old Patriots jerseys are a good example. I know they changed them. I don't think they're that good, but they've won so much to them that they become good. I think you can win. You can make a jersey a good, as long as it has some fundamental, as long as they're not completely ugly. I don't think I'll ever love the Rams unis, but I think I could love these Jets jerseys because I love the helmets. I love the color. There's some things I like in them. But if you lose in your uniform, it just looks like it stinks. It just looks like losing. But if you win in them, it kind of has an air about it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I disagree. I think the Packers look good. Green and yellow shouldn't work, but I feel like they make it work. But maybe it's because exactly what you said, and I'm falling right into that trap.
It's because they win. It's the Green Bay Packers. I don't know. Okay, I guess we'll get out of here. I think that was the most heated debate we had. Out of all of them, we agreed on most of them.
What would you say is the best combo then?
All black during the day. That's actually a controversial opinion. Look, I see people saying there should be no black uniforms on this team. It's like, okay, time to go to bed, Grandpa. I understand what you're saying, that the Jets are the green and white, but Every other team has a third color that it can play with. And these black uniforms objectively are the best ones that we have. Just aesthetically, they look the best. I understand it's not the green and white, but the helmet's still bright green. The numbers are still white. You just add the black, and they look good at night, and they look good in the day. I think they just look good. I understand if Jets fans don't like the current uniforms. I'm not going to hate on that. But the people who particularly hate the all black look, I mean, come on. They look clean in them. Like, let's just be honest here. I know I don't like the whole, just wear black uniform for black's sake, but like, they look clean. I got to give them that. They look clean. So I would say all black.
All black in the day is probably the one. Or
they're going to
all
wear
white.
that. Halloween.
All white
They're going to wear that. And I'm calling that right now. Halloween against the Bengals. They're going to wear all black during the day. And then people can see what I'm talking about. All right. I guess let's get out of here. Yeah. Okay. If you don't believe that, go look at the highlights of like the Jets-Dolphins 2019 game, home game, or the Jets-Giants. It's like Jets are great there. And maybe that's because they won both those games, right? Maybe that's why. If they lost them, maybe I wouldn't like them.
But I think they look great against the Bengals in 2019. That wasn't a fun game.
That's true. That is true. I forgot about that game. Oh boy. All right, let's get out of here. Well, I guess tweet us what you think on these at CUIJ Pod. Comment on our YouTube video. You can follow us at Michael_Nania, myself at Ben W. Blessington. You can find this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You could also go to jetsxfactor.com, the best place to go for Jets content. Go to the Jets X Factor YouTube to find all our podcasts there, along with plenty of other great Jets content. Rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. I think that's going to do it for us. We'll be back on Thursday with another positional breakdown. We'll keep it a surprise for now what exactly we're going to be doing. But we're having a lot of fun with those, getting closer and closer to training camp and then the season. And then Michael and I don't have to debate which uniform combo looks the best. Because these are the type of topics you have on a Jets podcast the middle of July. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Let us know what you think. Go Jets.